On this episode of the Rebel Health Tribe podcast, available at rebelhealthtribe.com, we welcome Nick Horowski from Evolution Health and Fitness.
I have these books, like I have Deepak Chopra, I have Eckhart Tolle, like all these things on my bookshelf. Do you know the books I've never read or can't even get through the first chapter on are all of those kinds of things?
Yeah.
And yet I can go and, like I said, if I'm going doing my Tai Chi, if I'm going just like, I do more of like a deep breathing as my meditation. If I go do a shamanic journey, nothing. Like I don't even think about it. I'm just there. I'm in it.
Incredible.
But yet I cannot read a lot of that stuff.
I'm the same way. I would rather listen to them speak. I would rather listen to.
Sometimes it gets to me. I'm like, let's just go do this.
Let's just do it, right? Interesting. You know that a lot of people do that. A lot, and I think maybe I'm guilty of that too. Now that I think about it, it's like people prepare to get ready to do the thing instead of just doing the thing.
Yeah, and I didn't recognize that until you said Show, and then I was like, I don't know why I have all of those books.
It's amazing. That's coming up. Welcome back to the Rebel Health Tribe podcast. I'm Joe Rignola, and today I'm flying solo without Mike today. Mike's apparently has some apocalyptic construction going on next door to him, so the noise would be out of control. But I'm super happy to be joined by Nick Horowski. I had to slow that down to get it right. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
You hit it dead on, so it's already a good start to the show here.
It's hard for us New Yorkers to speak in general, so to say a name that's a little out of the ordinary is especially hard. But your website is evo-health.com, right? Yes, it is. Very cool. And your podcast, which I just had the pleasure of being on about a week or so ago. I don't know, it could have been a month ago. My frame of reference for time right now is out the window. But your podcast is the Bare Naked Podcast, right? Bare Naked Health.
Bare Naked Health Podcast, yeah. And that was a blast, and it was a few weeks ago, so you're in the right time.
All right, cool, yeah. And remember, you do those naked, right? That's the
yeah. That's why I only shoot, like, we're shooting from the head up, just because down below, nothing else.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, we typically don't wear pants on this one, so we're good. We're on the same page there. So how was that, folks? Awkward enough? So Nick, we always start out just by letting people tell us the brief, sort of public-facing story of what you do, and more importantly, why you do it.
So for me, I love health. I grew up, I feel like my mom always kind of taught me about health. Like I always got it more from her and my grandfather, actually. So for him, it was garlic could cure anything. So that's kind of where I started. And I mean, I was just always interested in health, fitness, like trying to crush weights, be strong. Like when you're in high school, doing that whole thing. Mm-hmm. Got to college, studied physical therapy. And so now I'm a physical therapist. That's basically my main gig. And then I also have, like you said, Evo Health. I have the Bare Naked Health podcast. Like for me right now, what I'm doing, I'm interviewing kind of like what you guys are doing on the show here too. I love interviewing like some of the healthiest people in the world and just seeing how they live, like seeing what they do. Because I found that it doesn't matter almost if you're a health or wellness practitioner or not. People have amazing health journeys.
Yeah.
So it's fun for me to be able to learn from just about anybody, and learning from clients that I work with too. Sure. It's a similar thing. Like,
well, that's an interesting thing. People don't realize that we learn, we should be learning from our clients. And I think a lot of, so maybe medical practitioners in general feel like they have nothing to learn from the people that they're trying to help. And I think for us to have that open-mindedness to say, hey, you know what, we may have something to learn from these people that we're trying to help too.
Yeah. And if I didn't learn something from somebody, I feel like, not that I'm not missing out on it, but I can't help them fully, because I think to learn from their experiences, I'm going to be able to help them that much further along with things. And it's also going to help me with myself and then anybody else that I'm working with too. I mean, that's what it's all about. Everybody just kind of sharing that message, because I can't show somebody how to get healthy. I can talk to them about it and they're going to realize it for themselves.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the way we all learn. So you started out with physical therapy, but you moved more into like a holistic nutrition sort of approach and holistic health. What was the transformation there? Or was it really a transformation, or just kind of something you tacked on to what you learned?
So physical therapy, I still practice. I mean, in the clinic, just about every day.
Okay.
And for me, though, I love the physical aspect of it. I love movement in general.
Hmm.
But I notice with my patients, and this is something I'm even working on developing stuff for, strictly, not strictly for, but specifically for people who are in physical therapy or people who have tried physical therapy and they're frustrated. They're pissed off. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, it worked for a little bit, but I didn't really get better, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I have patients come to me all the time where, all right, they'll get 50% better, they'll get 75% better. And we've cleaned up everything mechanically. Like,
Sure.
hey, they're moving great, they're doing all this, but they're still sleeping 4 hours a night. They're still
Mhm.
eating just this highly inflammatory diet.
Right.
And they won't listen to me about water and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
on and
simple
so
stuff. Yeah.
forth. Yeah. And I want to be able to, or really what I'm working on right now is like a basic nutrition thing to kind of heal for physical therapy. Like, okay, you're in
Yeah.
PT or you're trying to just get out of pain. Like, hey, start with this. And I want to do stuff like with sleep, with movement, with just stress, all of the above. But I'm starting to work on one thing, something that's usually pretty simple for people to do because it's hard for me. Like, okay, if I'm working with a patient and there's all these other people in the clinic and stuff too, you can't really go into and a lot of things and they'll ask you so many questions and well, I still have to be able to work with them
Sure.
for that standpoint
So
too.
these people are coming to you. Maybe they have a shoulder injury or knee injury or something like that, and they're coming to you for basically for rehab, like rehabilitation from something like
Right,
that.
right, exactly.
And
And
how much can they really fully? I mean, there's only so far physical therapy can go if somebody's eating McDonald's and sleeping 3 hours a night.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I try and be frank with people. I try and tell them that,
Yeah.
but it's still sometimes an uphill battle. And with today with insurances and everything too,
Hmm.
we're getting less and less visits. So I might only be able to like you got to clean them up just faster and faster.
Sure.
And sometimes it's not going to work because they've been their body's been breaking down not just for the last 30 days that they've been in pain but
Sure. Their whole life.
30 years probably in
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
cases. So it can be tough.
Yeah. Well, let's back up a little. Where did you grow up?
I'm basically not too far from where I grew up. I grew up in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
Live in Easton now, and that's work just in and around the area. Robbins Rehabilitation is the clinic that I work at.
Give me some frame of reference. Where would you say Easton?
Easton, Pennsylvania.
Give me
Yeah,
like some frame of reference to like where that's near.
an hour north of Philly, an hour west of New York City.
Oh wow, okay. So you're on the East Coast there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
like
Okay,
just over
gotcha.
the Jersey border from New York there.
Oh, cool. Okay, we should probably hang out because that's only like 2 hours, not even.
There we go.
Next time we do one of these in person. That's cool. So so growing up there, I know there's a lot of farms, like farmland around Pennsylvania. Was that kind of part of your upbringing? You said your grandfather was big into health and
Yeah, so farms are it's a weird thing. Like the only thing you can find are cornfields, soybean fields.
oh
That's
yeah,
that's about it. And those are even diminishing now. No, but there are a lot of small farms. Even like the Easton Farmers Market right near me
yeah,
is fantastic. Like
yeah.
it is, I believe, the oldest outdoor market in the nation, which is really cool. Like they've been around since 1700s. Like
No kidding.
it's going really strong. And downtown, they also just opened up what's called the Easton Public Market,
Hmm.
which is now it's like 4 or 5 days a week that they're going to be open, where it's farms coming from probably a 50 to 100 mile radius or so. I'm not really sure,
Hmm.
but again, they're coming down here. Different, like again, people with produce, different types of animals. Like I think there's a place that does pork, a place that does beef, like
Hmm.
and little restaurants I think going in there. So that actually is just opening up either yesterday or today, and I'm excited to go check that out probably this weekend even.
Very cool. So was that a big part of your life as a kid? That sort of
Yeah,
environment?
and so going into that, yeah, going back to where my grandfather is, then like he had like 4 or 5 gardens in his backyard, and I think they
Right.
were probably 40, 50 feet long by about 20 feet wide, each of them. So he had a lot. And my parents have two really big gardens, so that was something I grew up with. Like my mom, she like canned tomatoes. She did like made pickles, like this and that.
So you were in it. This was, you know, normal to you, growing food and knowing where.
Fairly normal, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
we had like a couple apple trees. So it's something now that I see in myself. Like I am passionate. Like I'm redoing my garden fence and stuff right now. I was just, today I was out there doing it, just getting it ready for the year. Like I'm down in my basement here filming, but over on the other side of the wall here, I have like all my peppers, all my tomatoes coming.
Starting to sprout.
Yeah, I'm just excited for it all.
That's great. Great. We've kind of that's a connection I think that our younger generations are losing. How old are you?
I'm 30 years old.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's you know, you still have that connection, as do I, you know, growing up with food being, you know, my parents cooked a lot. And there was that time, there was, you know, a stretch of time there where it was TV dinners and Cocoa Puffs, but, you know, I still have vivid memories of, you know, my parents cooking and, you know, they still have a garden there, but, you know, we lost that connection. What did your grandfather do when he wasn't gardening? Like, what did he do for him?
What I knew of him, he was retired.
Okay.
Well, no, he worked in the church a lot, but he also helped take care of the church cemetery. Like he was the guy that he was there weed whacking, cutting the grass, doing all that. So I mean, if he wasn't doing that, like he and we would go fishing when I was younger. Fishing is still one of my favorite things to do. I love to just go fishing. Yeah. I grew up, I hunted a little bit, and I've still dabbled in it, like some archery stuff. But for me, it's smallmouth bass fishing. Cool. Going out, catching them, filleting them that day.
Is that something that you did with your grandfather?
Yeah. We would go. He and I would go to a lake like an hour north of here, up close to where he lived. Yeah. And once in a while we would just go out on the lake. I remember, it's funny you said this. So one day, I couldn't have been older than 10 years old, and we were out. Like he had just a little. We hooked up like a little 3 horsepower engine on the rowboat, basically. Nice. And every panfish I caught that day, he kept filleted, and we cooked it for dinner. It must have been like 20 fish, and again, they're only this big, so like it probably took him 3 hours just to fillet them all up and everything for my grandmother to cook them. Yeah. But
he must have been proud you kept catching those fish, and he was
exactly. And he was not going to throw them back for me. We were going to keep them and eat them all.
Oh, that's great. That's such a cool memory. And were your parents influenced? You said your parents had a garden too, so there was a big influence there, generation to generation, right?
Yeah, and like my parents and I, we still go fishing. We used to go fishing in Canada. Now, because we don't feel like getting my son a passport every 2 years, we're just going like way upstate New York, a couple miles from the border. Yeah. But always got to get up there, go hit the lake up for a few days every summer. It's great.
Wow, so and your parents too?
Yeah. Like they. So my grandfather started going. I'm trying to think how many times I've heard this story. I think in '52. Wow. So he would always go up with like 2 of his buddies fishing, and they would go up, and eventually, like my mom started going, my grandmother started going, my parents met in high school, and then my dad started going with them like every year kind of thing. Eventually, my other grandfather started going. So it was like there would be, I don't know, 8 of us up in the cabin there or so. And we'd just go, maybe 6, 8. It all depended on the trip, I guess. Yeah. But we would go out fishing in the morning, fishing in the afternoon, just relax, and then just relaxing during the day and stuff.
Well, great memories. Great memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And so does your family have a cabin up there still?
No, we never had a cabin. We would just go like different lakes. We had a couple different lakes that we would stay on specifically. Yeah. And you just get to learn them over the years and just love fishing them.
Great. And that's something you get to pass down to your own son, right?
Yeah, I've already the one pole I picked up for him, it's like a nice ultralight. It's still a little big.
He's 1, right? Or 2?
What's that?
How old is he?
Yeah, he's 9 months.
He's 9 months, so he's got a little while.
I'll just have to tie it to him.
A few more months. Yeah, that's all. Just weigh him down a little bit with a
pretty much
cement block or something. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. You can't start too early. That's fine. So growing up, with this sort of, focus on maybe not necessarily health, but at least knowing where your food came from. And did you ever suffer from any? So many people, like myself included, had my own health issues. and was sort of the catalyst for me getting into this. But did you ever have any health issues that you could speak of that, was something that kind of made you decide that you were going to go into this health field?
And I think I just more grew up around it. Like, I didn't have, like injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like any kid just, hey, yeah, you're breaking bones, you're doing just all this stuff. And yeah, you get injured. But I don't really remember ever any like major health issues for the most part. But I like looking back on it now, I realize the things that it's like, I just made mistakes like along the way, like more so in college, like just didn't sleep. Like,
well, that's everyone.
Stay up studying and all that. And yeah, I know it's typical, but it's now I look back on it and it's like, well, why did I do that? I could have still went out on the weekend, still had fun with all my buddies, and just gotten a little more sleep during the week, and probably felt better, probably gotten better grades, like and just been able to. I would argue maybe even enjoy it more, just because you didn't feel like sleeping through class every day because you only slept 4 hours because you were just studying all night.
Yeah, right. Did you when your parents had had the garden and stuff, was there ever, it was always like homegrown food, fresh food growing up, and that was sort of the standard?
For the most part, yeah, we always ate pretty. Actually, how about this? We ate as clean as we knew how to, kind of thing. Right. We would probably order pizza. No, we ate pizza like every Friday night, kind of thing. Like that was sort of thing. Like end of the week, we'd always get some pizza. But other than that, my mom cooked in. We didn't go out to eat. Like I said, we would do that maybe 3 or 4 out of 4
weeks,
weeks in a month or something like that. But other than that, we didn't really go out to eat much.
Yeah.
And even then, it was like, made breakfast, made lunch, made dinner.
That's awesome.
I guess that's kind of what I've always been ingrained to. And it was
normal. It just became that's what normal is, and for too many people, it's like that seems strange. What do you mean you grow your own food and cook your own food? What is that? I don't understand that. It's like you can do that.
But I guess at the same time, Joe, it was one of those. I recognized like I was eating healthy, but I always wanted to eat healthier too.
Right.
So that's where even like as young as I can remember, like I started like, all right, you're reading magazines. I'm a product of the internet. Like I grew up where internet was just starting when I was in like 5th, 6th grade, something like that. You could get that old like the dial tone and everything.
Yeah, exactly. American Online.
Yeah. So like I started, this is when I could start reading all that stuff. And granted, anybody with a pulse could type stuff and put it out there.
Sure.
But I would still read it, like just trying to soak it up.
So this is like in high school, early high school, middle school.
I would say you started in middle school, even. Yeah, like I would get that. I would get the bodybuilding magazines, like all that stuff, reading those. But and just started reading all about it. Really interested in it.
And is that sort of where did you know from around that point that you wanted to do physical therapy or something? Something with training or something to that effect?
Well, I think the physical therapy was, I really didn't know what I wanted to do type thing.
Okay, so through high school, just like everyone, you didn't know what the heck you wanted to do.
No, exactly. Like I knew, I guess, as much as what I was interested in. Like for me, it was by the time I was like junior, senior, I was like, I could go like exercise science and study that. And I'm kind of glad I didn't. I don't think I would have enjoyed that as much. I don't know why. Like I just get the feeling like, all right, PT, hey, this is what I was supposed to do. Like I picked it, like I stuck with it, and however,
like someone who likes to work, who wants to work with people, wants to help people, and so that seems like a natural fit.
Yeah, exactly. And I shadowed, like my dad's a dentist, my mom's an X-ray technologist. Like,
okay,
so I went in, like I've shadowed some of the docs, I shadowed some dentists, like I shadowed some orthodontists, but none of that was really hitting home for me.
Right.
Like I had PT then. Actually, I was already in college when I had it. Like I injured my shoulder, and I'm like, all right, this will be cool. Like, but I didn't really know much about it. So, like, because even when you're starting off in school, your first 2 years, you really have no idea what you're getting into. Even like for the next, like, because it's still a graduate program.
Well, how could you know? 18, 19, 20 years old. I don't think you're supposed to really know what the heck you're going to do.
I don't know. I disagree with that. From the standpoint of I don't think you have to know exactly what you're going to do, but I also don't feel like we're given the opportunity to find out what it is that we want to do.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Yeah. I think that I think we probably could find out what we want to do, but it's looking like, all right, now over the last 5 years, I've started studying all this stuff. It's like, I'll take these quizzes, like look at things, and it's like, what did you want to do when you're 8 years old? What do you still like cannot stop reading about? Like you still just like, you look at your library shelf, right?
Yeah.
And like your bookshelf, and it's just like stacks and stacks of all these similar books. And I'm still passionate about it. I'm still reading all about it.
So like even at 8 years old, you were still into maybe bodybuilding or, you know, training or something like that. Was that the thing at 8 years old?
I mean, I was still recognized, like, okay, food was still part of it. I still recognized exercise was part of it. Those were really the only two I think that I really had at that time. The sleep part I really didn't get, like any of the mindfulness. Like I think actually you probably are really mindful at that age. You just don't think of it as being mindful, because like even now, like I said, my son's 9 months old, but you can see like when he's into something, like he's 100% there. Like
right, exactly.
He's playing with it. Like that is an absolute unbelievable state of mindfulness.
Yeah, it's
like
sort of beaten out of us as we go to school. So I think the younger people are the more mindful, the more present kids are.
Well, and talking about the beaten out of it when you go to school, but the ADDs, the ADHDs, it's like, no, these kids are just thinking about other things. It's not that they can't pay attention. It's just, they're bored with that stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody wants to learn about different things. So
yeah, exactly. To have a kid sit still for 8 hours a day and pay attention to a teacher who's really probably extremely boring and not talking about anything that they want to know about. It's a terrible environment for a kid.
Even I drove down to Philly last Saturday. It was a 3-day conference, but I went for a day. Like somebody invited me down, so I went to check it out. I was there for 8 hours. Oh my God, I cannot be in a chair. Like I got up, I kept moving. I'd go to the bathroom, like I'd go stand in the corner. Like I can't do it now, but I recognize like I felt like garbage just sitting there from the standpoint, like, what is my body? Like I just could feel myself like slouching down and everything. And then I get up, you stretch around, you at least feel better. But that's what these kids want to do. Like that's why they're up and moving, like they're dancing, because that are doing it, and they can actually pay attention when they're doing that. Then
did you struggle yourself in school with that? Did you have a little bit of the ADD in school yourself?
No, I think because I was one of those, like I just followed the rules, like that was kind of how it went. But at the same time, it didn't mean I wasn't bored out of my mind sometimes. Just because it was like, all right, like what are we doing? And I recognized that more when I got to college, where it's like, all right, well, when are we getting to this stuff here? It felt like it went at such a slow pace sometimes. It's just like, okay, we'll keep going. Like lectures, half the time, I would always go to lectures again because I felt like I was supposed to be there. But you're just like, okay, and then you go and you read it, and some of the stuff you get out of the textbooks is so much more profound than some of the stuff that the professors are saying. It's like, why isn't this the stuff that we're going over? Or when I'm going out and then still have all these bookmarks on my computer, all these other things I'm reading. I'm like, why aren't we going over this kind of stuff rather than just the most rudimentary exercises that are just like, okay, if you can barely walk, these are the ones I'm going to give somebody. But people need to be able to go. And again, I'm trained then now from the Czech Institute. So Paul Czech. So it's all of these other different dynamic movements. And yes, isolation is important when you're first rehabbing from something, but you need to progress. You need to get people deadlifting. You need to get people lunging, like all of these things that, you can't do that. And it drives me insane because I still get it day in and day out. The one that still gets me the most is, my doctor told me I can't ever squat again. And immediately, like without hesitation, the very first thing I say to them is, how did you sit down in that chair?
Yeah, exactly.
And they get this almost like ghost, like oh
yeah. Oh
my
That's
God,
kind of a squat, isn't it?
It's exactly what it is.
So I mean, at that point, it's just a matter of increasing the range of motion over time, and before you know it, you're in a full squat.
And well, even if maybe they're not going to get to a full squat, or maybe they don't have to get to a full squat, and I'm fine with that. If that's not, if you don't need to do that, if that's not your absolute desire to get out of pain and stuff, if you just want to be able to sit down into your chair and stand up and be able to be pain free doing it,
sure,
that's where I want to get you.
Yeah,
but to think that you can't do that, or to think that you're not supposed to bend over,
yeah.
No, the body is supposed to do that, or you're going to be in for a lot of other problems down the road too.
Yeah. The school thing, I want to touch on that a little bit more because it's something that's interests me. Is, as a dad, do you think about that? Like, where, you talked about your son being so aware and kind of and present, and so are you concerned with kind of the public school system and putting him through that, knowing that this is not the ideal situation?
So, all right, I have about 30 different things that I want to get to now. So you brought that up, 'cause that's a great thing to go to. First of all, standupkids.org. Kelly Starrett, he's like a CrossFit guy out in San Francisco, but he's a PT, and he has this nonprofit where they're getting standing desks and Swift balls for chairs, like for kids that they want to use, like that kind of stuff. And they're getting it in classrooms now. And so that's one place that I actually donate to, because get this stuff into classrooms.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that could be something I can see myself doing, is like, all right, as my son goes through school, like, I'm going to make sure that I'm making enough money so that I can donate to his classroom, like kind of as he goes through school, just to be able to do something like that. Like, I want to make sure that I can make that type of thing happen, because it has to happen. But then, like, going off of like the public school system and stuff, there's so much opportunity for education out there right now with, Khan Academy, Udemy, Coursera. I
have
really
you considered homeschooling?
What's that?
Have you considered homeschooling? Was that something is that a scary thing? 'Cause for us, it's a little scary.
I am not going to be the one that does it. My wife, no, and not from a. That's not my. That's not my dream. That's not my like passion in life. So I can't do that, because that's not what I'm here to do.
Gotcha.
I'm not opposed to that by any means. If my wife would want to do something like that, like, I would be all in supporting her. I would give her many resources as I can with that.
Yeah.
Or if we looked into, because I know there's some Montessori schools.
Yeah, that's where our son's in a Montessori school right now.
Waldorf school. There's
Waldorf school. Yeah, we have a Waldorf school near here. That we have a couple of options around us that we're looking into. But the public school thing is just not. I just don't see that being an option, really.
And okay, so kind of getting back to where I was even taking that, I guess. Yeah. As far as an option, you know what? He would be in school from whatever it is, 8 to 3 or whatever it is. Well, there's still time before that and after that, and there's weekends and stuff. And I will get him every single book he wants. I will, if he wants to go take classes with me, I will go take classes with him. Yeah. Like if he wants to do stuff online, like online courses, that type of thing, like I'm going to be fully supporting that. Yeah. So, where I was going to take this then even after that was, what is college going to be in 18 years?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know what the education, what higher level or quote unquote higher level education is going to be.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be, I see there being fewer colleges and universities in the next 15, 20 years. I think there are going to be ones that shut down because they are just so outpricing themselves.
Yeah. And the system is antiquated. They're either going to change or they're going to be obsolete.
Right. That's exactly what it's going to be. And I had a conversation with a patient actually just this week, and they were saying, you know what's going to change the game? When some of these companies, because it's going to happen, when you see the first major company start accepting the new online platform as like certifications and degrees, something wild's going to happen. I just know that.
Yeah, because then you have kids that just have much more access to the education that they really want, they're interested in something, and that could change from week to week or year to year, and so and with the online platform, they could just learn. It's like my son's 4, and we're doing that already. If he's interested in bugs one day, we look up some education. He's got books about bugs, and or dinosaurs or space and planets. He's super into planets. He can name all the planets like better than I can, like the dwarf planets and everything, and their moons. It's insane. Like I don't know this shit. And
Now,
he's fully into it.
so then, Joe, did you? I mean, besides just providing with resources, like are there any specific things that you guys use? Any specific platforms like that he really likes to go to learn from?
Not necessarily at 4. You know, we don't just give him the iPad and let him go nuts. First of all, we don't want him around the Wi-Fi as little as possible. But it's just a matter of searching on YouTube for something he's going to be interested in, and books. I mean, he's got a library of National Geographic books that anyone would be proud of, and he's totally into it. And like I said, for he's 4 and not only knows all the regular planets that everyone knows, but knows the dwarf planets and knows each the names of the moons. It's just that's what he's interested in right now, and so we let him just learn as much about that as possible. So I mean, they did a planet month at his Montessori school, and he knew more than the teacher. So it was pretty cool. And that's the kind of thing. That's as you get into that public school, that school system where it's like, okay, no, you're going to learn this, and that's your option. You can't learn what you want to learn about, and it's sort of starts to have, I think, a deeper psychological effect than we realized over these decades. I think you're not telling a kid that he can't learn about space, or even if a kid expresses interest in being an astronaut or something like that, and you tell them, well, that's not likely. You're not telling them that they can't learn about this stuff. You're telling them that they can't learn, period. They can't explore, that they can't be interested in what they want to be interested in. And I think it really sort of kills their spirit at a young age.
And I think part of that is, I can't even put all this on the teachers too, because it's not like,
it's a system.
Some teachers are just killing dreams. Like you knew who they were growing up. Like you can see.
Yeah, my 3rd grade teacher, I still have resentment for.
right. Like, so you see it, but there's still other teachers where like they want to encourage us, and they will. But at the same time, if they're not sometimes going over, okay, what's going to be on whatever your state testing platform is.
Right, exactly. They have to teach to this ridiculous test that's has nothing to do with the student learning as much as it does how to the teachers being judged on the student's performance.
All it has to deal with are the 60-year-old white guys sitting at your state capitol who they're the only ones making these tests, they're the only ones making these laws. Like that's I listened to somebody, I don't think it was a TED Talk, but something similar, where they were talking about like the SATs, and the SATs, there have been some changes, but I don't really know how much they've evolved. And again, who was this SAT designed for? It was designed for a higher class income, white families, good neighborhoods, like all this and that, and for like getting them into their top schools. Right. What about everybody else?
It's really just a way to filter these kids out so the colleges can say, look, we've got this, we've got these particular stats just because they were able to filter out the kids that they wanted based on test scores. Yeah. So anyway, that's something I feel like I could talk about forever. But let's get back to you a little bit. When knowing pretty early on that you wanted to work with people, help people, went into physical therapy. Was there a time when you realized, I mean, you alluded to this before, you realized that, just the physical therapy wasn't enough. You can't help someone who's, struggling to sleep or has a stressful life or is eating crappy food. Did you went to Czech Institute for a while? Is that?
Yeah. So for me, after I graduated, I started just, all right, it was finally like, I had time to read whatever the hell I wanted, which was an awesome thing. Like in college, I read textbooks or notes or whatever. And it was just like, yeah, sure, I'd read things online, but wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. And after I started, I think back in 2009, like it was when I started working as a PT. And my boss and I got pretty close, and we started listening. He got me on to listening to podcasts. So 2009 podcasts are still pretty fresh, right? Like, and thank God I found Underground Wellness with Sean Croxton, because the people that he had on, like, were just unreal. They really were. He is. I mean, he's continued to grow and still does awesome to this day. But he had Paul Chek on that spring. Like, this was then, I think, 2010. By that fall, I had already started enrolling in some of the courses, and my treating just as a PT within the first couple months of me starting some of that, like, it would never be the same, like in a great way. And then it just took off from there. I mean, I've studied for the Chek Institute. I'm a mentor, like, for some of the people at the Chek Institute now.
So what did you do? Did you do HLC 1? Is that what you started?
So I started with exercise coach, and then I did practitioner 1, practitioner 2.
Okay.
Working on case studies for practitioner 3 right now. I did HLC 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
I'm redoing. I got to actually sign up for that. Redoing 2 in a couple months, because I would like to start even teaching for the Institute. So yeah, just trying to get all that going. I'm getting, like, basically all their prerequisites in so that I can start teaching for them as well.
I'm curious, just to back up a little bit. You said your dad's a dentist. Your mom does radiology. Is that kind of?
She's a radiologic technologist. She takes X-rays. Yeah.
Right. So did your dad? I guess I put some weight on the dad to sort of say, did he want you to go into a specific field? Was there something did he want you to be a dentist at one point, or it was just really open?
He was open to it. Like, if that's what I wanted to do,
I
was certainly encouraged and certainly welcome. I could do that. Like I said, I interviewed then, even or not interviewed. Like, I shadowed an orthodontist for a while then too. But I think it was the health field was the only thing that I knew.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the other thing too. I would have gone into history probably had I known what I could do with it. I thought the only thing I could do was basically write papers or be a history teacher.
Right.
Either of which I wanted to do it all. But now looking at it, it's like, okay, well, I could have gone like history, but I could have also gone like, you can travel the world and study, like, ancient civilizations. And I could see myself now, like, all right, like, the Egyptians, like the Mayans, like, all these cultures fascinate me to no end. Yeah. But I could have done, like, I could see myself, like, as, hey, I think it would be cool to be a modern day Weston A. Price.
Sure.
Traveling the globe right now, like, still studying the semi-indigenous cultures that are still there, and then bringing that back, sharing what I found, because, and so you can take that into, what would that be? Not sociology, I can't think
anthropology
of anthropology. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
where you're just looking at that, and I didn't even know that was a thing back in high school either. So
yeah, well, it seems like you went the direction you needed to go, and you're doing you're doing what you wanted to do, and
I can still do whatever I want to do. So
yeah,
at the same time, I maybe that'll happen in 10 years, in 30 years. I have no idea.
Yeah. World's wide open. So what's talk about your site, evo-health.com. What do you have going on over there?
So right now, I really like to write. It's funny. I just said I was going to say,
you seem like a really creative person too. You like to make videos. You like to write.
Yeah, it's like I said, I didn't want to be a history major because I didn't want to have to write papers, but I didn't, because I only knew what a term paper was at the time too.
Yeah, so right. Who wants to do that?
Yeah, it's 11th and 12th grade English, like, coming back to me.
Right.
Now I can write on whatever I want. So I'm starting to get into, like, I've been blogging. I shoot a video every day, usually a lot of times with my son.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, I'm just trying to share whatever it is, any of my experiences, so that hopefully it can help others out. And hopefully they can maybe say, hey, Nick, what about this? And, like, I can get something awesome from them too. But yeah, really what I'm doing is just putting out a lot of content over there, because I like to share it. I have a couple clients that I work with one-on-one. And then for me, like I said, right now, I'm with actually another physical therapist starting to work on designing for lack of a better term, a nutrition program for people in PT. But I want to tailor it towards that because, again, I want to find a niche that's I see as being underserved.
Sure.
From that standpoint, I'm very close to that field, so it's a very intimate thing for me. And it's hard for me to tell people, like I said, I still get 2 to 3 hours a week with somebody, but I can't focus solely on that because if I do, I don't get paid because insurance won't reimburse us.
Pick up the tab and all that. Yeah.
I still have to work on that. And so I don't like it from that standpoint. But that's why I want to be able to give them stuff.
You still have this desire to help people in a deeper, more meaningful way. And so
exactly.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So it can be like, okay, you know what? I can tell you these things. I can give you like, and we do, like we have some small handouts that we can give them, but some people just want more, or some people won't believe that just because it's a handout. Like it's that somebody gives you the most incredible thing in the world, like this amazing presentation, all these books, everything for free, and you don't do anything with it.
Sure, because they don't see the value.
They could give you a single book and charge $100 for it. You're going to read every damn word in that book and soak it up like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. People have to have some sort of some skin in the game for them to take action. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
for sure. But other than health, is there anything else you like to write about?
Yeah, kind of. So I've also studied shamanism, right?
Okay. And I knew there was something else there. I just had a feeling.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it. Like, I don't necessarily like to go out and write about other things.
Yeah.
But when I go on shamanic journeys, I still have my journal like right next to upstairs, like in the one room is where I journey. That's where I just do it because that's like I have places where I do my breathing exercises. I have places where outside I have my Tai Chi tree where I do that.
Yeah.
But the one place, like basically my office upstairs, that's where I do that. And I love just looking it's almost like that stream of consciousness. Like I might pop up, like I usually lay down, have my eyes closed, blindfold on. And sometimes I'll just like pop up and just start scribbling down like whatever I'm in the middle of, whether it's I'm in the upper world, the lower world. And without even like blinking an eye, then I can just be right back there and just go. And then I'll look at some of these things I write.
When you pop up and start writing about that, you're very obviously very in the moment. It's a stream of consciousness. Do you look back at what you've written later, and does it still hold the same? Does it make as much sense? Like I can imagine in that moment, it makes perfect sense.
It makes more sense actually.
It makes more sense
because it's not that it doesn't make sense at the time, but I'm almost not paying attention to what I'm writing.
It's not really you, or at least it's not your ego writing it. There's some other higher plane that's coming through.
I know where I'm at. Like I can see everything. It's clear as I can see you, clear as I can just look around and see everything right here.
Yeah.
But I'm almost still in that world when I'm writing. So as I'm writing stuff, it's okay. After I come back to the middle world here, that's when I'll look at it. And then I'll look back at things like a month later, sometimes a year later. It's just like, wow, that's pretty cool. And the amazing thing is like, I do a lot of journeying. So if I'm working with a client, I will journey on what I need to basically help them with, or what, like, cause I can see things on paper and they'll like, like if you work with people, you have a lot of paperwork that you want them to fill out. Truly, I almost don't need to give them stuff sometimes.
Sure.
Like I can just go do this and I know within 15 minutes, a half hour, what exactly it is that
you need to help them with.
Yeah,
for sure.
But then I'll do that in all aspects of my life, whether it be for my personal health, for my family. I mean, I can hear them making noise upstairs and stuff, or just for my business, for a patient that I'm working on. And where sometimes I do get stuck and you're like, you know what, this isn't adding up. I'll do like a quick journey on that. And you can just find things out about the body that you don't even realize.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. When did you start, when did you start with your interest in shamanism and that sort of aspect of connecting to, however you want to call it, connecting to source or different planes? When did that start?
Probably about 4 years ago, I think. Stumbled across all I can remember is Michael Harner. He's the big guy, North American Foundation for Shamanic Studies, I think. And read just reading his book. I think it's The Way of the Shaman. He wrote this at least back in the 80s, I think. That book blew my mind, and I've read it several times since. But then I took their basic, like their intro to shamanism, basically class or weekend course. But I've taken a couple others, and it's just, I enjoy doing it. Like it's one of those things I could see as I'm not where I need to be with that. That's something that I feel like you need to study with more and more people. Could I do it? Actually I probably could. But I think it's one of those, now as I'm saying it, it's an insecurity of mine. Where
is an insecurity where you're just worried about what other people are going to sort of think about that? Because it would be totally understandable. It's just an insecurity as far as you want to know more.
It's an insecurity of, I almost don't believe it.
Really?
Or I don't believe in myself with being able to do it. It's scary how effective it is. And I think that almost worries me because it's like, well, why do I guess it's almost a validation thing. Why do I give people 30 pages of intake paperwork, right? Well, because I think I need to justify what I'm charging when I could actually figure out what I need to do. If I go lay down for 15 minutes, close my eyes, go into that state, and I could actually see exactly what they're going to write. So I guess it almost, again, it's more of it kind of scares me how effective it can be.
Sure. How easy is it for you to get into that state, or has it gotten easier the more you've practiced?
For some reason, it was super easy for me.
Really?
Yeah, I actually don't really need music for it anymore. I still like to listen to the drum beat, but I can do it without any beat, any rattles, like anything like that. If I close my eyes, I can just, as long as I go, like I know where to travel to, like I can get there. And I found, like, because when I took the first class, I was like, all right, this is going to be cool. Like, I'm excited. And I was a kid on Christmas. When, like, the first time we did it, like the first time the teacher walks us through, and shit, like my notebook after that first one, I mean, I'm writing. And I remember the first, like right after our first journey, I mean, we're an hour, 2 hours into the weekend here. And
so the first time you did it was sort of like was it like a guided journey?
No, not at all. So it's, they just prepare you, let you know what's going to happen. Like we talked through it a little bit, talk a little bit about shamanism. And then he starts beating his drum, and everybody just kind of gets in their state, gets their masks on, whatever they want to do to get ready. And I really wasn't sure. And holy crap. Then, okay, so go through the first one, and he's like, oh, does anybody want to share? And I didn't raise my hand, but I was probably screaming like, I just like something about me, like I probably wanted to share it so badly that I didn't even realize it. And he was like, how about you? Do you mind sharing? And I just opened up, like, just whatever, like so on and so forth. Like, and it was amazing. And it's something that comes very effortlessly to me, actually.
Wow. That's incredible. That's the first time I've heard someone say that it was so effortless. And so did you know what to expect? You talk about, the middle realm, and did you recognize like what was happening as it was happening?
Like I said, yeah, it was clear as day.
This is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Again, my eyes were closed, but yet I could picture everything. And incredible. It was so vivid. It wasn't like I had to pretend to like make it work. Like, oh, I have to imagine these things in my head. No, it was just evolving all right in front of me. So it was pretty
right to you. I have to ask, I mean, and I don't know if you're comfortable talking about it but typically when I hear someone going on journeys or shamanism, there's some, some sort of substance, ayahuasca or something to that effect. Have you experimented with that, or do you feel like you don't need it?
I've never even seen this stuff, so I don't really know. So Jenny Delbridge. I had her on my podcast a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, and this is a quote from Paul Chek. She goes, "You don't need a shamanic journey if you have a kid." I just thought it was absolutely hysterical when she said,
"That's great."
I started dying, but no, I never had like. Would I do it under the right circumstances?
Yeah,
I would only do it. I mean, with some I would have to be in a complete state of trust to go into something that serious.
Yeah. But I mean, what you're describing is, what I hear other people describing who have tried LSD or ayahuasca or something like that. It almost seems similar, maybe not as vivid or abstract, but I
don't know. It was pretty wild. Like even when I journey now, like I can do some pretty cool shit in it. Like all the animals that I'm hanging with, like,
yeah,
it's pretty wild. Like you can do some pretty cool stuff, and
do you think that pretty much anyone could sort of tap into this? It's obviously you had to learn something. It's available to anyone.
No, this 100% goes back to something like we touched on earlier. What about that 8-year-old kid?
Yeah.
We've all been there. We've all done this. How many imaginary friends did you have growing up?
I still do.
Okay. That's my point. I can remember, I had 3 imaginary friends growing up, and like, this was something we talked about, like in the class. They're like, yeah, imaginary friends, like, yeah, that's like touching into all these different worlds and stuff.
Is it really imaginary?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Is it really imaginary?
Yeah, but it's that same state. Like you can get there. Like everybody's been there before.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, can you re-access it? Like, can you get back to that state? And you can. It's just how really willing are you to just kind of let it go and just dive right in?
That's the thing. There's got to be a lot of fear and attachment. Obviously attachment that we have to the physical form, and fear of going into that realm. There's got to be a lot of fear there. For you, obviously, there isn't, but I think for most people there is.
Yeah. I never thought of actually. See, Joe, it's funny. Like you bring that up, that never even crossed my mind.
Never even crossed. Sorry, I put that in your head.
No, because that's something it's just kind of, I can let stuff
not even
go pretty easily. Like just get me stressed out. It's pretty tough to do.
It seems like it would be.
I can relax very easily. I can stay calm. I mean, I guess it's something I've probably trained myself to do. And again, with all my mindfulness practices, yes, I've probably gotten better at it, but at the same time, it all feels pretty easy for me to do that. So sometimes
does your wife do that? Is your wife into them? No,
she could not sit still for 30 seconds if you paid her to, kind of thing.
Really?
No, from the standpoint of she can do it, but for her, it's like she loves to read things. Like if she's like in a book or something, and I try and talk to her, she's like, yeah, okay, like give me a minute, like wait till I finish the page. Like she's all in it, and that's awesome because I think that's really her form of mindfulness. Without even realizing, like
she's focused on that.
What's that?
She's focused on that.
100%. Like she's not going to sit down and try and meditate, do anything like that. She said she's tried it. She can't do it. And could she probably do it? Yeah, I really believe that she could, but she doesn't want to, and that's not her thing. So why bother?
Fine. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not for everyone. I have trouble. I can't sit. I need to do something. I need to focus on something. I can't just sit there and meditate and clear my head. Right. I shouldn't say I can't, but it helps me to have
something else to do your mindfulness practice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still meditation. I don't think it matters. It's still meditation. It's still mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. One of my favorite speakers and authors is Pema Chodron, who is the first one to, she teaches people how to meditate, but she'll admit that she sucks at meditating. Which is
I remember we talked about that before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. We talked when I was on that. It's hilarious. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny you just said Pema Chodron, because I have these books. Like I have her, I have Deepak Chopra, I have Eckhart Tolle, like all these things on my bookshelf. Do you know the books I've never read or can't even get through the first chapter on are all of those kinds of things?
Yeah.
And yet I can go and, like I said, if I'm going doing my Tai Chi, if I'm going just like I do more of like a deep breathing as my meditation. If I go do a shamanic journey, nothing. Like I don't even think about it. I'm just there. I'm in it.
Incredible.
But yet I cannot read a lot of that stuff.
I'm the same way. I would rather listen to them speak. I would rather listen to.
Sometimes it gets to me. I'm like, let's just go do this then.
Let's just do it, right? Interesting. You know that a lot of people do that. A lot, you know, and I think maybe I'm guilty of that too. Now that I think about it, it's like people prepare and prepare and prepare to get ready to do the thing instead of just doing the thing.
Yeah, and I didn't recognize that until until you said Pema Chodron, and then I was like, I don't know why I have all of those books.
It's amazing. You know, it's been said there's a particular book called I Am That, which is, you know, it's since I've been studying mindfulness and Buddhism and Eastern philosophy in general more. Like I bought that book probably 5 or 6 years ago. The story goes, if you don't even need to read the book, you just need to own the book and have it in your presence, and you'll get the answers out of it. Now I don't know if that's true or not. It never seemed to work for me. But just, you know, the more I learn about this, the more I tried to read it 5 years ago, and it wasn't there. It didn't resonate with me. Now it makes perfect sense. Like I think for someone who's not ready to read a book like that, it's going to seem just totally bizarre. But I think when you're ready, it's like I'm reading a completely different book than I tried to read 5 years ago. It makes perfect sense to me now. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a matter of being ready. Really interesting stuff. Nick, this was, I think an hour and 15 minutes went by and was like a flash.
I've been having a blast.
It's a great conversation. Really good stuff. So, let's just remind folks where they can find you online and you know, what, do you work with people, work with clients, over online?
And that's where, like, I do everything via Skype. Like head over evo-health.com. That's where, like I said, that's where my blog is. That's where any of my videos are, anything like that. If you want to contact me, head over there. barenakedhealthpodcast.com. That's where, again, all of those interviews are then. But again, they're linked between all the two sites there.
Great.
And yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Well, Nick, this was great. Thank you so much for hanging out and having a great conversation here.
Joe, you got it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, buddy.